any fan theories about that?
I have not.
Do you have a favorite theory? Have you heard any fan theories about that? Do you have a theory of your own?
Everyone seems to think the other sunset killed her or locked her in a closet somewhere.
That is dark.
I'm not. What I said isn't canon, so I'm just saying it could be anything.
Why is the fandom answer, oh, what happened to this character? Oh, they got killed off. That's the spirit of the show. No, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
She's got an inner darkness.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Next up.
Hello.
You can adjust the mic stand if you need to.
Yep. There we go. Is that going to work?
Yeah.
Nope. That's going to work. Hello, I'm very tall. Hi. I'm Hamish. For everyone, what do you think of G5 specifically? How would you contribute to it if you had the opportunity?
I mean, I would make a Flash magazine every episode. I think that'd be a great addition. I think it looks nice.
I like it. I would love to do Equestria Girls of it.
Equestria Girls Gen 5. Okay. You do go watch that.
Honestly, on G5, so I haven't watched a lot of it. I'm kind of doing the Shatner. I haven't watched Next Generation thing yet. But if they had me write it, I would watch the hell out of it.
I was, for a brief moment, going to do something on G5, but the timing didn't work out, and they kind of ran out of episodes, so it didn't happen.
What's G5?
Like the new MLP shows.
Oh,
like,
yeah, I don't watch that
the
stuff.
movie and things like that.
I don't watch that stuff.
Oh man, no. Ponies? What even?
No. The old Power Rangers? Yes. No. No, I've seen a couple of stuff. Some episodes. Yeah, I thought it was cute. I don't know what I would contribute to it. Probably not much. So just like G4. That's right. Thanks, Mitch. Really encouraging people in this community. Yeah. Over here, not so much up here. Thank you. Thanks, Amy.
That's it.
Thank you very much. Next up.
Thank you all for coming.
Hey, it's him. Oh. Yes, the man from Space Force.
This guy's awesome.
Yeah. So I was just curious, what's your favorite or your craziest con experience? And just curious if any of y'all are crashing any of the panels tonight.
I think Mitch could probably answer craziest con very easily.
Well, one of the wildest was the BronyCon, probably 15 or something. Tom was talking about this yesterday. I never knew the origin story, but a bunch of us got to go to the White House and get a private tour from the Secret Service because of My Little Pony. The Secret Service was there doing this thing where you sign your kids up to get their fingerprints in case they get kidnapped or whatever. Did I say that right? West Wing and all that stuff, and I almost had my phone taken away from me because I was taking pictures.
At least you weren't signing things.
That was quite cool to go to the White House. Yeah.
I went to a place. No. I got to go to LA, EQLA. I think it was one of the last ones, and for the top tier people, I think it was like 3 people that bought this kind of like special package. Got to go to Disneyland with Andrea Libman and I, and we went to Disneyland with a Club 33, and I don't know if you all are Disney fans, but I'm a huge Disneyland fan, so we got to go to Club 33, which is this exclusive club inside of Disneyland above Pirates of the Caribbean.
The old one or the new one?
The new one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which I haven't been to the old one, but the new one is very beautiful. And so as a longtime Disney fan, I was just blown out of the water to experience this and be like, this is what I get to do with the bronies? Like, this was amazing. And we had a VIP tour guide that would take us to the front of the line and have like exclusive seating for the Fantasmic and for the fireworks. It was like magic. And the fans that came to experience this with us. They're like, this is our first time in Disneyland. I'm like, I'm so sorry. It's going to be terrible every other time because this was phenomenal.
Yeah, your photo wasn't still on the wall from last time in high school.
No,
Like,
it was.
do not admit.
Yeah, it was out. It was out. They took that photo.
Don't have anything of that level. This is literally my second in-person con, and as I said earlier, I just feel really lucky to be here. I never thought I'd get to come. So were there any crazy stories from the day and a half I've been
Remember
here?
that time we had to run back from Arby's to make the
Yeah,
panel?
so we were at Arby's and a
totally
Q&A
looked
was going on.
I feel like this
And
is
like there was like these machine guns. No.
this is a challenge, though. Give Giles a really interesting, weird con story by the end of the weekend that beats the Arby's story. So it's a low bar to clear.
Of it, and maybe it's for the best, but like my first con was Babs Con. That one is in the hotel, so everyone is just in one big place, which also meant that like I just remember the last night just being in sort of a big herd of people and just sort of going from room to room, and it's like each door would open and there would just be no matter how you could give me millions of dollars and I couldn't have told you what was going to be inside each room, and then it was just like, no, this is amazing and crazy. Okay, gunk, next door, ka-chunk, what's going on? Oh my God. It was really, really crazy and strange and fun and great.
I can't tell you.
18 plus.
No, it's super. No, it's super weird. But I went to Trotcon. Stuff happened. We'll skip over it. But at the end of it, Jillian, Ingrid, and I were smoking cigars in my convertible as we drove back, and it was fantastic.
All right, thank you.
Well, first time I met Mitch was I think it was at Dallas, I think. And I heard about this guy who signs everything, and I was like, ready for this like super flamboyant, aggressive guy, and he's gonna come over and he's like, hey, I heard Mitch wants to sign you. I was like, what? Let's bring it on. And I was like, and he comes, can I sign you? And I was like, aw, sure, okay. So he signed my pack. And then later on in that, Minneapolis, yes. And then later on in Dallas, he was like, hey, Vince, can you sign this pumpkin? I'm like, why? He's like, well, we're going to get more money for the charity auction if you sign this pumpkin. I'm like, okay, sure. So he signed this pumpkin. 10 minutes later, he runs back. He's like, hey, Vince, do you want to punch this pumpkin? I'm like, why? So we're going to get way more money if you punch this pumpkin. I'm like, okay. And I was so worried I was going to break my hand, but Mitch held the pumpkin, and I punched the crap out of that pumpkin like 8 times before I got through. And I actually like elbowed it one time, too.
Punched me in the stomach through the pumpkin.
Yeah. Yeah, that was fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the handy setup there as well to mention the charity auction in here at 12:15 p.m. tomorrow, supporting Have a Gay Day, a wonderful queer local charity. And I believe, hopefully, several of our VIPs will be stopping by to help auction stuff off. Fingers crossed.
Can I mention one more really quickly, because I just remembered it?
Yeah,
From
go for it.
early on. I got invited to a convention in Paris, which was already mind-blowing, so they flew me to Paris, and then I did an on-camera interview with the BBC in Paris about My Little Pony. That was incredible.
That's a good one.
All right.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dan. I'm visiting from Toronto.
Canada!
Yep.
Shut up.
All right. I'd like to ask a little follow-up question from the first question that was asked, mostly for you, Nick, about Equestria Girls. Since, unfortunately, we didn't really get like a complete canon wrap-up of Sunset Shimmer's character arc, I was just wondering if there were any ideas that were floated by the writers that, were of interest to you that you thought, this might be a good way to wrap up the arc that never got made, or do you have any stories about that you're able to share?
Yeah, I can vaguely remember this was sort of tied into your question that short specials, or it's a special with like sort of several little vignettes in it. They came out really great, but before we settled on that, that was originally going to launch this other arc, and it was going to be about Sunset kind of trying to teach the other women about heartswarming and just what it's like in Equestria, and then that would sort of bring up the memories of like, oh yeah, I left Celestia right sort of during Hearthswarming and sort of had like a bad Christmas in the past, and that was going to kick off what happened when I left, and what did that spell do that I used, and it was all going to kind of be tied together into that. So sort of a vague answer, but because we didn't actually get a chance to pitch on it, but it was going to be so good.
Okay, yeah, that was really interesting. Like, just being able to tie Hearthswarming to the Equestria Girls universe. It's a great way to put them both together. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
All right, and Vincent, I just want to say I'm totally jealous you got to Club 33. I would love to go there someday myself.
You should be.
Yeah, I totally am. So, thank you.
Thank you.
It is one of those places where if you have to ask how to go there, they're not going to let you in. It's a backslapping secret handshake business. But yeah, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I am Depeche Mode. I'm from Philadelphia. Great to have everybody here. Some faces I've seen kind of recently, some faces from years ago. It's great to have everybody here. Thank you for coming. My question is, have you ever had an idea for an MLP cross something? Like I've always wanted to see Fraggle Rock crossed with MLP. I would think there would be a great adventure, like the Fraggles could ride on their backs and they'd kind of pair up based on their personalities, and Red Fraggle would ride Rainbow Dash, obviously, and things like that. That's always been my idea. Have you guys ever had?
Yeah, I personally would like to see an MLP and Doom crossover. Doom, the video game?
Yeah.
Where you find out that the Doom Slayer is actually a pony.
Okay.
And it's just the most, the lens lifts up and it's like, you're like, whoa. Yeah.
Boy.
I think that would be amazing.
That would go right along with the Fighting is Magic video game.
Yes.
That was awesome and got shut
Exactly.
down. Yeah.
This isn't exactly that, but I have a scrap on my computer. It's like a Word doc that has just one sentence, and it was also something I wanted to explore for Equestria Girls, which was just David Bowie from Labyrinth steals something magical. And it wouldn't literally be that, but it's just a character like that. But that's sort of like, it'd be cool if it literally was. Like,
We got robbed that we never got to see that. Oh my God.
So-
Bowie.
Does anyone know Dirk Wood from IDW? It's okay if you don't.
No.
So I was on a panel with him. He was the editor, one of the editors at IDW, and he was announcing that IDW was going to have Mars Attacks attack all the IDW books, but he wouldn't say which one. And I turned to him and I said, "My Little Pony,
Attacks
that's
Equestria."
a pitch." And he's like, "If you can write it by the end of the panel," and I did. I did it on my phone. I sent it to him. The Mars Attacks people come to My Little Pony, come to Equestria, but because of spells that Celestia has, they can't use weapons. So they just wind up getting in bigger and bigger pie fights. But because they can't kill people, they learn to live with them, and they become better people, and they learn the lesson of friendship, and they go back to their normal universe and immediately get killed by the other Martians.
That's good. I like it. That's good. That's really
And then I got an email from Dirk going, "Oh my God, I didn't realize you actually did it."
I didn't mean to actually write it.
That's good. I got nothing.
I don't need an answer from everybody.
I got nothing.
I don't know.
That was good.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
I would have put money on you mentioning Star Trek.
Oh, I don't know what I'd do with that, but yeah.
Hi there.
Hello. Hello. I'm Nolan, an Ohio brony, and I'm curious about the writers and what the most proud and least proud of that they've contributed to the series.
Least proud of.
Yeah.
Both of them.
When were you at your worst?
I guess the one I'm most proud of is the Return of Harmony, because it's just cool.
That was a gift to all future writers.
I mean, Discord. You can sum it up in one word. Discord. Yes?
Yeah.
Discord?
I hadn't seen it in a long time, and Full Papers and I actually watched it at a different convention. And watching it, I was like, this is really good. I really like this. So I was happy with that. Yeah. My worst?
Wings. Just say wings.
I don't know. They're all amazing. It's
That's the
tough.
thing. I feel like we generally didn't do stuff we weren't proud of.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
That's for you guys to debate.
We can change it up a little bit. We can say, if you're all right with it, we can say stuff that you wish you'd had more time on, that you weren't as satisfied with as you thought you could be, but...
Sounds good.
Yeah, I mean, I also don't want to bag on any episode that people like and make them feel bad for liking it. But I do remember just wishing I had more time with, is his name Mudbriar? It's like Maud gets a boyfriend. See, I didn't have enough time. I barely remember the character's name. I wanted to have a B story in that episode about the sisters and Pinkie Pie that was going to give it more heart to it. And then that kind of never came together. And I ended up having, who wrote this? I don't know.
It might actually be Magical Mystery Cure just because of the circumstance. It was supposed to be the end of the show. And I wanted it to be a two-parter, and there just weren't enough episode slots. So it had to be a one-parter, and I wrote it as the series finale. And then long after I was finished, they got a fourth season. So they had to go back and I was done. They had to go back and change so that it would lead on to more seasons. So it would have been cool if we had known that in advance and could have prepared for that and not written it as a series finale. But that's beyond our control.
I would have liked to make the Evil Pony arc 4 issues, because then I could have done more with Rainbow Dash. Like, they kind of capped me at 3, so she got the short road to let me do what I wanted to with Nightmare Moon. Like, she had already faced her dark side, so the water didn't have any effect on her. I'm also really disappointed that Hasbro caught that I was trying to put a wake in a My Little Pony comic. And they caught that, and then that's not in the script, but I think it would have made it better. It would have been really subtle. Like, you wouldn't have gotten it if you didn't know what it was, but if you knew what it was, you totally knew what it was. Wanted to write a wake and a pony.
Nick, you want to chime in on that? It's okay if you don't want to. Or did you?
I did.
Chime in again.
More to say on this matter.
Oh, God. All right, well, thank you very much.
Further questions you can give to my
I also asked what you're most proud of.
Oh, did I not say
That's what I was thinking. All right.
Yeah, that's
Wasn't right.
It's like I need more
Nick,
therapy.
proudest
I'm
moment.
proud of things too, I swear. I am proud to Equestria and have ponies in the show that wasn't supposed to be about ponies anymore. I thought it was a pretty cool bait and switch that I was proud that we got to do. And in the show itself, I really liked getting to write episodes with Discord and Spike and Big Mac, which sort of was like this vague, jokey thing we talked about in the room every year of like, oh, boys episode, oh, this show was so fun. And then getting to actually find a way to like literalize that and make it meaningful and still feel like the show, I'm pretty proud of.
I'm proud that I bought Flutterbat back. And I have a line in one, because I like making people cry, because your tears keep me young. And there's one where Pinkie Pie's sister is going to go away to college for like 2 years, and she's all upset about it. And I needed to have a scene where the pony, like in my outline, it said the ponies convinced her to throw the party with cheese sandwich for her sister to leave. And it kept breaking, and it wasn't working, and no characters were working. And then I wrote that Applejack went up to her and said, Pinkie, I know what it's like when people leave. And that kills me.
You.
Ow.
That's a classic outline, by the way. Classic outline to be like, they convinced her.
Yeah.
And then,
This stuff happens. Adventures were had.
and then you have to actually come up with it.
Hello. So, if money and legal were no issues, what's one project you'd, from the bottom of your heart, you'd love to do, either with MLP or something else?
Say the second part again. If money and legal were no
Money and
issue,
legal,
then
like you had the rights, you had the funding, you could do anything you wanted, MLP or otherwise. What's one project you'd really love to do from the bottom of your heart?
Well, rights, funding, and they weren't going to end up getting sued for whatever they came up with?
Yes.
Perfect.
I think I would want to make more My Little Pony.
More MLP. Good answer.
I miss it.
I have some immediately I know. There's a comic series called Gru the Wanderer that I would love to do as a TV series. And a video game called Golgo 13 that was about like East German spies. It was so awesome. I'd want to do a movie of that.
I'd want to do a James Bond musical.
Do you have any songs written? I mean, do you want to demo some right now?
No, I haven't thought that far, but they would probably sing a few songs, have a little tap dance battle. You know how James Bond movies go.
Yeah, fair enough.
You've been watching different ones than me.
Stephen King's The Dark Tower series. I'd like to play Eddie Dean. I know they're developing it into a. Yeah. Eddie Dean, anti-hero, man. But yeah, they're developing it into a series right now. But I'm definitely not in the running for that at the moment. But if I had all the power and money, I'd love to do that.
I would love to bring back Pushing Daisies as a comic. Because I think that I just love that show so much. It was so visual. I think it would actually translate. Yeah, I would have loved to have done that.
If I might ask for a slight elaboration, so with how this being the MLP con, and you wanted to say what MLP you would do more MLP. What more MLP do you think you'd want to do?
It's just a really well-built show. The
fair.
characters. I mean, there's also this thing I think about when it's fun to kind of talk about who's the best pony, but really like just thinking about it as a show and the writing, it's like the character's good because they're against the other characters, you know? So none of them work in a vacuum, and it's just so beautifully, it's like a sparkling gem the way the thing works, and it's a joy to write, and you all are great. I guess in the spirit of the question, I swear I wasn't just like answering a baity thing, but I guess I really like old Nintendo games, so like Blaster Master, Mega Man, just something in that spirit. Those things really mean a lot to me, and to find a show or something like that would be really fun. Yeah.
And because you said legal, I would love to do a Star Trek story with Harry Mudd and Cyrano Jones. And I want to do The Sting or Mudd's 11. But the problem is that Paramount went and they got the likeness rights to every actor who ever was on Star Trek, except those two actors have no kids. So there's no one to sign off, and they can't use those characters. So like when they brought Harry Mudd back in the comics recently, they had to use Ryan Wilson because he played him on Discovery. So yeah, I would love to do that.
Thank
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. Who's next?
All right. I guess my question is for M.A. Lawson. Like, so in writing the episode "Slice of Life," how'd you choose what projects in the fandom to reference, and what because there's so many out there, so many projects out there. How'd you choose which ones to reference and which ones not to?
How did you convince them to let you do it? I have questions about it.
I'll tell you guys something I've never told anybody. I got a lot of help from full papers down there. Some of the really obscure fandom stuff, I didn't know anything about, and I was gifted it. A lot of it, I went on the...
I never thought you were allowed to tell anyone that, but thank you.
Who cares?
Who cares?
I went on all the wikis to kind of figure out who the main background ponies were. This was the question earlier about what you're proud of. I'm definitely proud of that episode because it's the only one. I didn't go into writing because I like fighting with people, but often you have to. That's the only episode I really fought with Hasbro because they wanted to kind of just do a normal episode with background ponies. And I was like, you guys, this is a huge deal. Like, this needs to be totally different. And I could show you these massive text exchange or email exchanges we had where I said, no, it can't be that. It has to be this. And they did. They let it happen.
Nice.
And then I sent this manifesto to DHX, and I was like, you guys need to go even farther and put as much stuff in as you can. So a lot of the references in there were from them. They weren't even in the script.
Wow.
It was just, my whole idea was this needs to be, can I swear? This just needs to be batshit insane. Every reference you can think of, every background pony, they all have to be in there. And then they twirl through each other's storylines, and it all comes together in the end in this giant crash. And then the wedding's really sweet. So it was hard to do because it's not my nature, but I went into the office with the executives and said, no, you have to do it this way. And they did, so it worked.
It's awesome.
Hi.
Hello.
It's my son.
Ooh.
So, I am this is gonna be funny. I'm actually not a pony fan. Oh, shock.
Shock,
I
horror.
know, kill me.
good.
Loved it. You know, I showed it to my daughter. My son got hooked. So I'm here to support him and to join in one of the cons and to just see what it's all about. But I am interested in voice acting. So I was asking him earlier, like, what would you give somebody if they really wanted to have a start in voice acting? And because now I'm a homeschooling mom that's phasing out, trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my life now. You know, I devoted my life to my children, and I can still use my voice. So I was just wondering, like, what, besides what you see on YouTube, like, what else do you think? Like, how did you get involved with it? And start out with it. So what do you think?
I would say record yourself.
Record myself
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah. And then
With like different, like highs and
record
lows.
yourself
and all
doing
different-
anything.
any
Read
kind of-
something, listen to something, record yourself, compare yourself to what you're listening to. Is it
Okay.
good? Is it bad? Is it on point? Do
Okay.
you hear exactly what you think you laid down? Because
Exactly.
sometimes a lot of people will listen back and go like, oh yeah, that's exactly what that's like exactly the same as Rainbow Dash.
Okay.
And then somebody else will listen to it and be like, that's not even close. So you got to realize, do you have the right ear for it? Are you putting out exactly what you think you are putting out? So doing that stuff, doing improvisation, some improv classes is great. Watching tons of cartoons is awesome. Different genres of cartoons or commercials, if that's your thing, or audiobooks. But recording yourself is such a huge thing. I used to do a lot of tricking, a lot of like gymnastics, martial arts stuff. We would record ourselves all the time, not because we're vain, we are, but we also can tell what we're doing wrong at that
Right.
point. You think you're doing something, but you're like, oh my gosh, my arm is the same thing with voice acting.
Okay.
So if you're recording yourself and I'm like, coming up next on Fox News, and you sound like, coming up next on Fox News, and you're like, that's not what I think I sounded like. That's totally wrong. So you have to be very honest with yourself and really be your own critic until you have a chance to, put yourself forth to somebody professional. As well as just like Voices123, voices.com that you can go on to for beginner stuff if you wanted to start out to like audition for things.
And then like, I used to be in acting like back in the day in the 20s, when I was in my 20s. So my question is like how, like after you kind of got your voices and you can kind of figure out like what you could do with your voice, like how you can make it like sound differently in different characters, then what do you do afterwards? Do you get an agent or do you just kind of like just start like putting it up on YouTube? Or,
Everything.
Like, it's
It's up to you. It's up to you. There's like not one answer to do these things. It's like,
Gotcha.
there's people that put it on YouTube. There's people that just do TikTok. There's people that get their demos done and then throw it to agents. There's
Okay.
people that get it done and throw it to union agents or non-union agents. So you got to do that research to find out
So
what
it's just
you
a
want to
luck
do.
of the draw, right?
No, it's not. Well, I don't
Not
think so. I
completely?
think it's all of the stuff. It's gonna be,
perseverance,
you got to
too.
get lucky sometimes, but it's going to be a lot of hard work, right? So like for me, when I first got into it, Sushi Pack was my first cartoon, and I was like auditioning, not getting anything until I realized when I got my first part, I played a piece of tuna called Toro, and he was this big fat tuna guy, and he wore kind of like diaper stuff. And so it was this guy's voice, yeah? And I went in there, and I realized that all of these people, there's a guy, Sam Vincent. I don't know how old he was. He was probably like 40-something, but he sounded like this. And he still sounds like this. And it's 20 years later. And he's been doing that voice since I was a kid watching him. So I got to be better than all of these guys who can still sound like this, in order to get in the room and be worthy of sitting next to all these guys.
Okay.
So it's like, you got to put that hard work in. That wasn't just luck. That was a lot of hard work that I had to put in. And especially, this is why I got into voice acting, was because I look like this. When I started this business in 2000, all the roles that were available to me were gangsters that talk like this. All gangsters. Tattoo here, tattoo there. I want to shoot this place up. Or a laundromat owner, or a delivery guy. The first part I got on TV was a delivery boy.
Okay.
That was named Yoshi. I'm not even Japanese. So that's the stuff that I was only allotted in life. So I had to break down all these barriers to show them that I can do way more and prove to them that I'm talented enough. So it's not just luck. It's a lot of hard work.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'll let you go back to your pony, people. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And thank you as well, not just for the question, but for supporting your family and their wonderful interests. So, yay!
Hi there. So I am a fairly new fan. I'm about to season 4. I haven't finished the full series, but I've really loved what I've seen so far. You guys have done great work. And I just have a question about Applejack as a character, because I find her really interesting because as the element of honesty, there's a fair number of episodes pretty early in the series where she's not the most honest character, but where she is always honest is in her work. And I guess for me, I kind of gotten the impression that she's more definitely in work, she is a figure of integrity, which is something I definitely appreciate. I always try to take that in all the work I do, every job I go into. I try to bring as much honesty and integrity into it. But I guess I wanted to hear from actual writers of the show, like what you think about that concept of basically she is a hard worker. Her character seems to be a lot about the work she does, but she's also a good friend. Do you think that both of those elements are important to her character? I'm assuming the answer to that is yes, but what do you think about like the idea of, is her honesty showing more in one or other of those aspects, or does she struggle more with one or the other of those aspects?
I mean, I can say that with the honesty, I remember we definitely thought about it in a couple aspects. There's sort of like the, how is Applejack funny honesty, which is like she'll say the thing that everyone's, afraid to say, and she'll just say it like, what? And then you have that kind of stuff. And then also in the moments, the more heartfelt moments, that honesty would manifest as like maybe telling a friend a hard truth to hear that is actually very important, something like that, that's, hard for anyone to say, that she could model that kind of thing. As far as working goes, I know she's one of the characters because her family also works in the farm, and so it was sort of like, it's easy to tell those stories, and so I think sometimes maybe we lead into those, but then I think we tried to show the honesty more through the interpersonal stuff, I think.
Gotcha. So like the fact that more so the thing I'm seeing of her being a worker of integrity is just because she's part of a family that's more so that way, but her character and the part where she shines is through her friendships and such, is what you're saying.
I think so.
Gotcha.
But I'd be interested. Oh, how do you guys see it?
No, please.
I always, she was really hard for me to unlock. When I was pitching, she was one of the characters I was taking immediately when I was doing the individuals, because Katie Cook wrote a story with her. But for me, I always wrote her excessively earnestly, but it didn't mean that she spoke earnestly. Like, she would never do anything that felt dishonest, but when you're trying to talk to friends, you get into this whole complicated situation. Like, it's in relationships. You can't be completely honest with the person you're with because they're the person you're closest to, and you don't want to say things that hurt them, but you're not trying to be mean. And it's like this whole, like, almost, mutually assured destruction kind of thing, where it's like, I don't want to tell you that I'm bored here, but you know me really well, so you know I'm bored here, but I can't tell you that. But she always acts earnestly, so the things that she does are always honest, even if she's not saying the honest words at the time.
I think that honesty in a friendship is very nuanced, and so I think that it's really interesting you're pointing that out, because one of the moments I noticed is like, in Art of the Dress, she's not the one who tells Rainbow Dash, she's not the one who tells Rarity the truth that they don't like the outfits. It's Rainbow Dash who's blunt that way. But yeah, what you're saying, she's always honest in her actions.
Right, and she's honestly supporting her friend. Like, so when your friend calls you at 3 in the morning and says, "Were you up?" and I'm like, yeah, sure. You called at 3 in the morning, it's got to be something.
Sure, yeah.
I think it's a really insightful thing to notice, the work element. Because I think if you asked her, she would say, yeah, it's an honest day's work is just as important as literal honesty.
Sure, yeah.
Nick and I write an episode, and then 5 other episodes happen that we don't really know anything about. So some other idiot writer might be writing her lying.
Sitting right here.
That was a joke. But in Return to Harmony, where Discord, curses her and she starts lying, she's really bad at it and tells these totally over-the-top, ridiculous lies, which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious.
But yeah, it's not like she only ever tells the truth. It's more in her soul, which I think is what you picked up on.
Yeah, and I just wanted to congratulate you on that, because I think that that's a nuance that a lot of people don't seem to get about people who are honest. So yeah, Thanks.
Applejack doesn't get enough love and respect from the fandom, so thank you for that.
So this is half a question, half a story, mainly at Mitch, because you wrote the 100th episode. So did you specifically, I don't know if everybody's, if you catch it, with the bowling ponies that are modeled after...
The Big Lebowski.
Thank you, Big Lebowski. The bowling ponies, when they are in the bowling alley, it's all three of them, but at the wedding, it's just the two of them, and they have the coffee can, which, if you know the movie, is the third character. Did you write that bit?
No.
Oh, okay. Because that bit, I actually had a conversation through the mail with Patton Oswalt. Are you familiar with the comedian Patton Oswalt? Who voiced, thank you, Quibble Pants. His wife, Meredith Salinger, voiced Windsprint. Is that right? Or no, that was the little girl. Patton Oswalt and Meredith Salinger's daughter, Patton Oswalt's daughter, voiced the anyway. I had a conversation with all of them, and I pointed that out to Patton Oswalt because he's a big Lebowski fan. I pointed that out about the coffee can, and he thought that was the coolest thing, and he actually, like, on Twitter, retold that story.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I did. If that was you specifically, I wanted to kind of give you the props.
No, that was another piece where I obviously had a scene with them because I guys go nuts, and
It's
they
one of the
did
reasons
stuff like
the
that.
show is so good. That on a lot of shows, at each stage, it kind of maybe just stays the same, or God forbid, it gets worse. But this show, everyone was putting so much into it that, like, you would see the storyboard come back, and there were jokes that you hadn't even thought of, or like story points, and then background art, and it just at every level was getting better all the time.
I mean, referencing Big Lebowski is cool. Going to coffee can level is like really cool. Anyway, thanks.
I like the coffee can level. That's a good.
Yeah, it's a good shorthand.
So I was just curious, whether it be the show or the comics, we get to see the finished product. What is a crazy or memorable story from behind the scenes that we never get to hear about?
It's really tricky because we're freelancers, so there's not much of a scene. Like, we would go to the Hasbro office and go into this back closet that quite literally had no windows, it had one door, and there were chairs stacked in the corner. It was like a storage room with a whiteboard about this big. I'm not exaggerating. And break the stories for one day. And the rest of the time, we're at home. So it wasn't like, and then all the animators and storyboard artists and voice actors and everything, they're all in Vancouver. So there's not much scenes to be behind. It was like we'd go in, you have one day in the office, the rest you're at home by yourself, and then a year later you see it on TV. So there's probably good behind-the-scenes stories from the DHX crew.
Yeah. I mean, this is maybe like a little bit oblique to what you're asking, but I guess a marginally interesting thing to me. No, why am I even saying it at this point? No, but I think one of the more interesting episodes I wrote that I really like how it came out is Saddle Row Review, which has this very different format of the show, and it's really funny, and the story is pretty simple, but the process by which that one came about was that we were actually in trouble because the original idea, I think, was like Rarity opens her boutique, gets into a competition with the place next door, and I just remember, the part that I remember, the note that derailed the whole thing was like, in the outline I had written something like, and then she tricks her competitor into getting on a boat, and then the boat sails off to Pony China, and she never sees her again. It was crazy, and they were like, Rarity would never do that. So the story was like, it was like maybe gonna get killed. And so I think I didn't write a draft of it yet, but to go into script, then we had like a week, and there was just like a Monday morning phone call that was like, what if it was just like, the place is a mess, everyone tries to fix it, they all make it worse, so then they try to do it the Rarity way, and then it gets better. Or they do it, whatever the order is. It was very simple, and then it just became every single character, joke, and it came out, I think, a lot better than it would have if it was the other thing, which was really bad.
I did have, one of the stories I worked on went through like 18 different changes, and it was weird. I got to attend a Sherlock Holmes convention in New York, and every year they focus on one of the stories. And the one they focused on was The Mystery of Silver Blaze, which is the one that has the dog that doesn't bark. And I'm sitting there, and I wasn't a Sherlock Holmes fan, I was going for my girlfriend, I mean, I like Sherlock Holmes, but I wasn't deep into it. So I'm sitting there, and my brain is wandering a little bit as they're talking about horses, and I go, I write about horses. So I pitched this idea for Twilight Sparkle having a Sherlock Holmes adventure that's essentially the Mystery of Silver Blaze, but with Twilight Sparkle, Sherlock Holmes. Right? Yeah. I hate pony names. I'm so bad at them. And Spike is Watson. And I write this story, and they're like, okay, we like it, but we really want to use Pinkie Pie as Sherlock. I'm like, okay, well, that wasn't what I was thinking. Like, I thought, Twilight works better. And, like, I rewrote it in the middle of the night at Denver Comic-Con because it was due the next day. And, like, I tripped on luggage and banged up my foot and got the whole thing done and sent it to them. And they said, oh, wait, we thought you were right. We want it to be Twilight Sparkle. And then I had to rewrite the whole thing again and get it done again. And I still think it came out really well because it's actually got one of my favorite funny moments because you can't kill a character in it, weirdly. But also because the horses were the main characters, you had to have something else for the race. So I brought Tank there, and it was tortoise races. And I have it narrated like it's the most exciting race ever. And they're going inches at a time. They're like, oh, he's pulling ahead. And Spike is just through the whole thing going, but they're so... Yeah, that's one of my favorite bits. But yes, rewritten 3 times.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello. I have a question for the writers. Is there any point that you ever look back at something you wrote and was wanting to do a revision of it, more in hindsight, something that you wrote that you think about over time, and then what could I have done? Could I have rewritten this better, or what could I have added to it? Is there any specific examples of that you may have, if that makes sense? Just for any of the writers.
I'll start calling on people if I have to. Mitch?
I can't really think of anything on My Little Pony.
It doesn't have to be pony. Don't matter.
I mean, there's always things that I would redo. No, I mean the things that I would redo, I'd be prevented from redoing by the executives who wanted them that way in the first place. No, I'm pretty. I've read through some of the scripts and I'm like, yeah, that's pretty good. I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I generally feel that way. I think I touched on the one that I would maybe have wanted to explore. Just give it a little more meat with some other characters in with the Pie Sisters. But
I got in here a little late, so
I'm sorry. Okay,
that.
it was. I don't remember what the final name of the episode was, but where Maud gets a boyfriend. I just wanted to. I thought there was a cool opportunity to have more of a story between the sisters that never really made it into the episode.
Okay.
No, everything I read is awesome.
Fair enough.
Spoken like someone who's not read a lot of my work. That's great. There's stuff I would change. There's jokes in Love and Capes I wouldn't tell now. But I won't get a tattoo because if I got a tattoo, it'd be something I drew. And if I drew it, I would hate it in 6 months. Yeah, and I think that's the way it should be. You should always be able to do it better, but I want to know that I did it as well as I could at the time. So I'd rather, it's like Edna Mode. What's the line that Edna Mode has? I don't focus on the past.